Hi, this is Brendan from Watto Training, and in this tutorial we take a look at HC General Information. This tutorial is relevant for Queensland candidates. This information is general in nature. Please contact your local driving school for specific information about prices and packages. If you need licensing and/or eligibility advice, please contact Transport Main Roads. The different types of heavy vehicle licenses in Queensland are as follows: light rigid, LR, medium rigid, MR, heavy rigid, HR, heavy combination, HC, and multi-combination, MC. What defines a HC, that is, a heavy combination vehicle? A prime mover of more than 15-ton GVM with at least 3 axles and semi-trailer with at least 2 axles. A truck more than 15-ton GVM with at least 3 axles and a trailer more than 9-ton GVM with at least 2 axles. What can I drive on a HC license? With a HC license, you can drive an LR, MR and HR vehicle and a truck including a prime mover, semi-trailer or mobile crane over 8-ton GVM with a trailer of more than 9-ton GVM. What options do I have for HC training? There are generally 2 pathways for HC class training. HCA. The A restriction license means you can only drive HC vehicles with automatic transmissions. You can't drive a synchro with a B restriction or a road ranger non-synchro in the HC. HCB. The B restriction license means you can drive HC vehicles with synchronous transmissions, nicknamed synchros, as well as automatic vehicles. You will not get a license to drive a heavy vehicle with a non-synchronous transmission if you choose this pathway. Okay, this diagram is a very important one for people to have an appreciation of what license they're coming from, what vehicle they do their test in, and what they end up with on their license. So let's work from the top. So starting at the left, HR Auto is what the applicant has at the start. They then do their driving test in a HC Auto. They end up with a HC Auto as shown on the right. Let's go to the second example. The applicant comes in with a HRB restriction. They can do their test in either a HC Auto or a HC with a B restriction vehicle, and they end up with a HCB. So TMR recognizes that B restriction on the HR, and that carries through. So even if the person does a HC test in an auto, they still come out of that with a B restriction. The third row, someone has an unrestricted HR license. They can do their test in a HC vehicle, which is either A for auto, B for synchro, or unrestricted, and the outcome is an unrestricted HC. So again, Transport Main Roads recognizes that HR unrestricted license at the start, that they've already been deemed competent in that, and regardless of what HC vehicle they do their test in, they still come out of that with a HC unrestricted. HC Open. The open license, which means you can drive any HC. If you choose this pathway, you need to train and be assessed in a non-synchronous transmission. The non-synchronous transmission type requires an understanding of gear range, torque, engine power, range selector, multifunctional clutch, and shifter functions. You'll be required to use a double clutching technique for gear changing. What is double clutching? Double clutching, also known as double declutching, is a driving procedure primarily used for vehicles with an unsynchronized manual transmission. Truck drivers in unsynchronized manual transmissions will often not use the clutch at all when driving, but for the purposes of a driving test in Queensland, you must use the clutch. The double clutching technique involves the following steps. The throttle, accelerator, is released, the clutch pedal is pressed, and the gearbox is shifted into neutral. The clutch pedal is then released. The gear matches the engine RPMs to the gear RPMs, either using the throttle accelerator when changing down or waiting for RPMs to decrease when changing up until they are at a level suitable for shifting into the next gear. At the moment when the revs between engine and gear are closely matched, the driver then instantly presses the clutch again to shift into the next gear. The whole maneuver can be, with practice, take no more than a fraction of a second, and the result is a very smooth gear change. How many lessons do I need? For the HC Open, approximately 4 to 8 hours for experienced truck drivers with significant crash box and or trailer experience, 8 to 12 hours experienced truck drivers with some crash box experience and some trailer experience, and possibly 12 or more hours for people with little to no truck driving experience, double clutching and or reversing of trailers. Like a lot of things, it's probably best to do your first training session of a couple of hours with the trainer, and then they'll give you an idea of how many lessons you'll possibly need. With regards to the HCB and or A specific information, 4 to 8 hours experienced drivers with significant trailer experience, 8 to 12 hours experienced truck drivers with trailer experience, and 12 hours or more for those with little or no truck driving or trailer reversing experience. Lessons are normally conducted in 2 and or 3 hour sessions in the HC class. Do I need a learner's permit? If you are graduating from an MR or HR license to a HC, the answer is no. Learning to drive a higher class in Queensland. When learning to ride or drive in a higher license class, you must be accompanied by a supervisor who holds an open license in the license class you are learning to drive in, has held that license class for at least 1 year. Clearly display L plates at the front and rear of the vehicle, back only for motorcycles. Show your provisional or open license to a police officer if required. Obey a 0 alcohol limit. Not be under the influence of illegal or prescription drugs. Obey any conditions stated on your license. Moving to a higher class. To apply for the next higher class, you must hold your current license for a set period. This period must have occurred in the last 5 years, can be continuous or made up of different individual lengths of time, excluding any time that your license was suspended, surrendered, cancelled, or expired. If you take a look at the table in this slide, and I'm specifically referring to the row second from the bottom, you can see that if an applicant has a current license class MR or HR, they need to hold that license for a minimum length of time of 1 year to be able to go for a heavy combination license. To apply for the next higher class of license, except for class MC, you must have held your current license class for the required period, as per the table in the previous slide. Bring your license or other evidence of identity documents if your license has been lost, stolen, or destroyed. Declare that you are medically fit to drive the class of vehicle. You may need to provide a medical certificate that states that you are medically fit to drive. Pay the road rules test fee and pass the test if required. We've already confirmed that's a no for the HC class. And finally, pay for the practical test fee and book and pass the test. If you are doing your driving test at a QGAP office, you will still need to complete the driver license application form F3000. Once you pass your driver's license, your new license will be sent in the mail to your postal address within 21 days. If you have upgraded to a heavy vehicle license, you will receive a magenta coloured license that will show the highest class of vehicle you are authorised to drive. For example, if you are issued a HR license, you are allowed to drive each type of vehicle listed for that class. Class RE and R motorcycle licenses will show separately on your license. Booking a heavy vehicle driving test. To book a heavy vehicle test, you can book online or you can call 132380. To change or update a test, you can reschedule online or call 132380. To cancel a test, you should call 132380. And please note, no bookings can be swapped. Some people will also book their driving test through their driving school. That way you can make sure that the trainer and the truck is available on the day that you are doing your test. How long does it take to complete the driving test? The HC class, not more than 80 minutes. Down the bottom of the table there. Maneuvers. For the heavy vehicle, the maneuvers are as follows: reversing exercise, hill start, gear changing, and uncouple recouple. That's what they look like on the test form. You can see trucks on the right hand side. Reversing exercise requirements for Class HC. Reverse the vehicle in a straight line over a distance of 40 to 50 meters. The maneuver should be commenced from a position parallel to and within 2 meters from the left road edge or curb. At the completion of the exercise, the vehicle should be parallel to and within 2 meters of the edge or curb. The applicant should be given 2 attempts to successfully reverse the vehicle. In each attempt, 1 correction is allowed. This exercise should be undertaken predominantly using the mirrors when observing to the rear. An occasional glance over the shoulder is allowed. For dog-trailer combinations, the applicant should be given the option to reverse with or without the trailer steerable axle locked. Reversing exercise, HC only. The DE will say, now DE stands for Driving Examiner, I'd like you to undertake a reversing exercise. Could you please stop the vehicle within 2 meters of the curb along this road? DE points out the position. Thank you. Now reverse the vehicle in a straight line for approximately 40 to 50 meters, ensuring that the vehicle remains within 2 meters and parallel from the left curb. Please do this maneuver predominantly using your mirrors. Note, occasional glances over the shoulder are allowed during the maneuver. Here's a diagram of the maneuver. Gear change requirements for Class HC. With the vehicle in motion travelling along a road with a level surface or slight incline, change down the gears to a lower gear, excluding crawler gears. The highest gear in the lower range is sufficient where the gearbox has dual range. On vehicles fitted with a 5 or 6 speed gearbox with constant mesh in first gear and synchro the remainder, the applicants are only required to change down to second gear with the vehicle in motion. If the gearbox has a facility for splitting gears, the applicant may be asked to split gears while changing up during this exercise. If the automatic gearbox has a facility for downshifting, the applicant will be asked to downshift to a lower gear. It is unnecessary to ask the applicant to undertake the gear changing exercise if the above requirements have been demonstrated by the applicant during the course of the test. For vehicles without a range change facility, the DE will say, along this section of road, I'd like you to change down to the lower gears while keeping the vehicle moving, please. Thank you. Please now resume normal driving according to the road and traffic conditions. Note, for vehicles with constant mesh only in first gear, the DE should direct the applicant to change down to second gear only. For vehicles with a range change facility, the DE will say, along this section of road, I'd like you to change down through the gears to the low range. Thank you. Please now resume normal driving according to the road and traffic conditions. DEs may need to clarify that there is no requirement to change down to crawler gears. Hill start requirements Class HC. Move off smoothly from a stationary position and travel up a moderate incline without rolling back. In Class HC vehicles, not moving from a parked position, the trailer brake should be used to secure the vehicle when waiting to move off on a hill. This is to avoid activating the spring brakes. The DE will say, I'd like you to do a hill start ahead, please. Would you please stop parallel to the curb, indicate a location. Thank you. Please drive off when you're ready. HC uncouple recouple. An applicant for Class HC is required to uncouple the trailer, drive forward approximately 10 meters, and then reverse back onto the trailer to recouple, ready to drive off. The applicant should be able to uncouple and recouple the trailer, having regard for all safety practices, in the correct sequence within approximately 12 minutes. The DE will say, "I'd like you to undertake the uncouple-recouple exercise. Please uncouple the trailer and drive forward about 10 meters. After that, could you reverse the trailer / prime mover to recouple as if you were coupling to a different trailer? Thank you. As we move off, would you please apply the trailer brake to test its operation / function? What if I failed the practical driving test? If you failed the test, don't panic. After you have had more practice, just simply book in for further practical driving test. But before you leave the centre, make sure you understand what driving tasks or skills you need to work on." Thanks for watching. This has been Brendan from Watto Training.